All right, Miami fans, this is your night, Wednesday night with Cam Underwood from State of the U. We so much appreciate Cam stopping by to give us an hour each and every Wednesday night to talk Miami football. Of course, the boys are on the field. We're just about 10 days away from the final spring scrimmage there in Orlando, the spring game. And so there's much to talk about both on the field and on the recruiting trail. This is, of course, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. If you love college football, this is the place to be for any of the teams you see back here and many, many more that you love and that we cover on a regular basis. But we talk Miami football with you and with Cam. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I feel good. I feel strong. Got a nice workout in a little bit earlier today. Okay. So, that feels pretty good. And just doing my due diligence by drinking my water and hanging out. So, yeah, I'm good.
So you're speaking my language, Cam. So working out, I'm not going to call myself any kind of workout fiend. Look at this. I'm not trying to sell that in any way, shape, or form, but I do my best considering my age to keep up with it. And I try to be diligent. And so your workout, what's the focus? What are you trying to accomplish?
Man, I don't even really talk about it. So
okay, all right. Okay.
I was just mentioning that's the thing that I did, but it's more for me than anybody else. So just in general, being stronger, maybe thinner and healthier, just kind of in general. So yeah.
So then the other thing is, when I say you speak my language, the water. So I made a commitment a few weeks ago, and I'm a pretty decent water drinker, consumer of water, but it's amazing how much you're supposed to drink. So I don't know if you have bought into this, but I've heard that you're supposed to drink about half the number of ounces that you weigh.
Yeah, that's a lot of ounces. And
yeah,
because if you've met me at a game recently or something like that, you know that I am not necessarily the slim trim Cam Underwood that I once was. So that's a lot of water. I don't get all the way there, but I try to do my best.
So I will say I'm in the 185 range. So I'll just leave it out there. Then I'm in the 185 range. I just had a physical a few days ago. And so I've got to drink about, 90 plus ounces of water. So I line up, these are 17 ounces. So 6 of those give me my 100 for the day. So I try to get that done each and every day. All right, everybody, I'm sure is on the live chat. I haven't checked it out saying, Mark, shut up. Let's get to Miami football. All right. So just had to bring a little personal perspective into it.
No.
He dropped those 2 phrases on the workouts in the water, and I could connect with that. All right, Cam, before we get to what's happening on the field right now, let's get recruiting. As you mentioned to me before we started to record and go live, this is the time of year in which the offers fly.
Yeah, there's a lot of new offers going out across the board. In pretty much every position. The one that was kind of noteworthy yesterday on, April 9th, there were about 8 or 10 linebacker offers that were put out to various players, both local and national. A couple kids, from Dade County, Broward County. The majority of MacArthur's football team, showed up and watched practice yesterday. So they had a linebacker who used to play at American Heritage, Ruben Hippolyte II. He got an offer. And that's a position of need in this class for Miami because Shaq Quarterman, Zach McLeod, and Michael Pinckney are all going to graduate. And there's no ready-made replacement. I mean, Avery Huff in this recruiting class, who will be there in the summer, is very good, and he can be a starter down the line. But, I mean, there endeth the list of really top-tier options at linebacker. So Miami's going to need to get some guys in this class. So lots of offers flying. There was another one, a guy from St. Peter's Catholic in New Jersey. I forget his name, but he's a 4-star recruit who also got an offer yesterday. So lots of offers going out, new quarterback offers going out. You've seen some of these wide receiver offers. Mookie Cooper from St. Louis, who is like 5'11", 195 or 185, being recruited to be basically the next Jeff Thomas, if that makes sense, since he's from that same area and has some of the same skill sets. Obviously, offensive line offers are going out all the time. Quarterback offers are not necessarily flying as much as other positions because, again, you only play one quarterback at a time. But Miami has been expanding the board there. And also, on defense, there was a new defensive back offer and maybe a target from a kid from Louisiana. I forget his name, but he's 6'2", 180 as a safety. And Miami, the only out-of-state player committed in this class is Darren Branch from Amite, Louisiana. So when you think about that. Okay, I think his name is Johnson, his last name, the safety, another player from Louisiana that Miami is targeting. Like, okay, cool. So we got one guy from there, and maybe we can get like a mini pipeline or something going on in this class. So yeah, there's lots of offers going out, and there's probably going to be more offers as well. I know that there are always players locally in South Florida who of variety of people, regardless of, if they're connected to them personally or they're just a fan of this or alum of a certain school or whatnot, who are always being hailed as a person who should have an offer. So I'm not going to say that all of those kids are going to get offers, but I'm sure that the board will continue to expand as we go through the spring, as evidenced by, recent offers just going out this week.
Cam, we've got a comment from JT Sounds who's asking about Lorenzo Lingard's cousin, Avante Williams, and whether we've got a good shot at getting him.
Avante Williams is a kid who runs sub 4.5 in the 40. He's a 4-star safety out of DeLand, Florida, which is in the Orlando area. Yes, I do believe that there is a chance to get him. He is currently committed to he was committed to Miami. He committed on the same day as Lorenzo Lingard a couple of years ago. Within a couple of hours, because they're cousins and everything. So they both committed to Miami. Tay Williams decommitted, and then he's now committed to Oregon. But most people believe that is a placeholder commitment for right now, and that is not going to be where he signs for a variety of reasons. The elephant in the room that has nothing to do with football is that Tay Williams has a 1.5, 2-year-old daughter. And going from the Orlando area to Eugene, Oregon is a long, long way. So if you think about, hearing, oh, maybe he's looking at Florida, maybe he's looking at Miami, somewhere in state, makes sense. So I say all that to say, obviously, with a familial connection, yes, there is a chance. I'm not going to say it's 100%. Obviously, you look at Amon Richards' brother, you look at RJ McIntosh's brothers, both going other places and things like that. But in the case of Tay Williams, there is a chance. And Miami has been recruiting him for many years. Ephraim Banda has been the guy on that for those years. And we just got to, kind of wait that out and see. But yes, there is a chance. I would say like a medium chance, obviously, pending how things work out. But it's not outside the realm of possibilities that Tay Williams commits to Miami.
We've got a couple of different folks in the live chat that are concerned about Keyshawn Washington's commit that just obviously just came in on March 24th and whether he's going to flip away.
Yeah, that was what I was hinting at to you before we started recording. So Keyshawn Washington out of South Dade, he's like 6'1.5", 180 pounds. He's like a safety / striker kind of guy. Visited Florida State last week for their spring game, and the chatter from him has been very Knowles centric, and that makes sense because he was just there. And there's a decent, I won't say decent, excuse me. There is a chance that he decides to flip again. Or not again, but Keyshawn Washington and his teammate Jaden Francois were both committed, actually 3 of them, with the offensive lineman Jonathan Dennis from South Dade. All 3 were committed to Mark Richt. All 3 decommitted. Of those 3, Jaden Francois has recommitted to Miami, as has Keyshawn Washington, but Keyshawn Washington committed after Francois in the recent one, obviously only a couple weeks ago. And yeah, he might be a kid I don't want to call that name because I know him personally, but there are some kids who, every school they visit is the best thing since sliced bread. It's new buildings and new people and, hey, oh, there was that one girl at that party and, all things like that. So it is possible that Keyshawn Washington, his commitment is less than rock solid. But with the amount of players that are available and interested in Miami at defensive back in this class, I think that if he were to choose to go elsewhere, Miami could replace him with a quality player. And he is a quality player, and I would like to have him on this team, obviously with his teammate Francois, and then, getting Jonathan Dennis back in the class as well. But, I'm a 37-year-old man, and he's a 17-year-old kid, and he's going to make the best decision for himself, regardless of what I think or want. So there's that. The other thing that I know people are going to be asking about is Ladarius Tennyson from Rockledge, Florida. I know.
You nailed it.
Of course. It's yeah, we want to talk recruiting. So
I was just looking him up. I did all this homework while you were talking, and then you just jumped in there and
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to steal your thunder or anything, but Ladarius Tennyson, he's a guy who was at Paradise Camp. I was at Paradise Camp last year, and I don't know all these kids by their faces. because obviously football players wear helmets, and like where the media people were, bloggers, media, everybody was far away from some of these drills. So I saw this short, stocky kid with these gigantic calves, and he's just making play after play. And that ends up being Ladarius Tennyson, who's a two-way player, standout at Rockledge, Florida. Rushed for 1,000 yards, had like 130 tackles or something as a safety. And Miami brought him in and recruited him to be basically the next Jaquan Johnson. So you think a guy who's 5'9", 5'10", well-built, instinctual, he can get off the hash, he can make plays, he can come downhill and tackle forcefully. That was what was pitched to Tennyson, and he was all in on that. And he was like a little-known 3-star recruit at the time. Well, since then, Georgia and Clemson have offered, and basically when Clemson offered, that was the one where you saw on Twitter he was reposting. His high school coaches were like making and creating edits of him going to Clemson or him in the Clemson uniform. And then Tennyson was like retweeting that. You know what I mean? He's like, oh my God, this phrase dream offer, when it's Miami, it doesn't mean anything, but when it's somebody else, it does. And that phrase was bandied about and things like that. And it was kind of, the writing was on the wall as soon as Clemson was like, oh, he's a really good player, we should get him. And they offered him. The writing was on the wall that was a wrap. And so shortly, I think like a week or 10 days after receiving that offer, Ladarius Tennyson is decommitted from Miami, and all signs point to him picking Clemson. Maybe another team, Auburn, Georgia, Florida State, could be in the conversation as well. But yeah, I mean, right now it looks like a pretty direct Clemson offered me, I'm going to decommit from Miami, take some time, commit to Clemson kind of move. So we'll see. We've already seen the first 2 steps of that, him receiving the Clemson offer and then decommitting from Miami. I believe that the commitment to Clemson is going to be coming forthwith. And I also believe this because I saw, I mean, he's going to be a college kid now, which is crazy because I knew Harrison when he was in middle school, but Harrison Tenzer, shout out to him. He's a Florida fan, so boo on that. But he put up a tweet talking about Clemson has told 5 stars already in April that they're full. There's a defensive end from Memphis who's a 5-star rated player who's interested in Clemson, and in an article, he told someone verbatim, Clemson told me that they're full at my position at DN and linebacker this year. What? So Tennyson doesn't have time to really debate if at other positions they're talking about 5 stars, seek shelter elsewhere. We have everybody we want, everybody we need. We can't even take you. Tennyson's not going to have time to sit around really and debate this for months. So I think that because of that and other factors, I think that, Tennyson committing to Clemson is probably going to happen sooner than later.
Conference championship teams, national championships teams are flooded with actually even 3 stars, but 4-star players. Now, when you talk 5-star, there's about, you can correct me here, Cam, because you know a lot more about it than I do. There's about 40 of those guys walking around high school football, right? That's somewhere in that range.
Yeah, it's like between, I think that most sites cap it at like 35 maximum. So, I mean, you're talking 35 and under. I mean, some years you only have 31, 30. I mean, 5 stars are your Jerry Jeudy, your Calvin Ridley, your Trevor Lawrence. I step foot on campus and you know my name type dudes. Not I get a couple snaps here and there, but like I'm a headlining game changer from day one type, players. And yeah, there's the one at least who has, it's secondhand information because he told a different journalist. But yeah, he said that Clemson told him, thank you very much. We don't have room for you at 6'5", 285 D end. Enjoy your career elsewhere. That's craziness, but that just shows you the level at which or to which Clemson's recruiting right now.
Yeah, and the recruiting rankings have not necessarily reflected that. They've been extremely high, but it's not like they've out-recruited according to the rankings. Everyone over the last 3 or 4 years, they've been certainly in that top 5 range. Now, I've got another player that's been mentioned on the chat and another one in which Clemson might be looming, and that's Jalen Harrell, 21st rated wide receiver, according to 247 Sports, who's still projected by 247 to go to Miami.
Jalen Harrell from Miami Central?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, he's listed as a wide receiver, but he's going to play corner.
Okay.
So he's like 6'2", 180-ish, I want to say. So he's a big kid, big corner in the Mike Rumph mold. And yeah, hopefully he decides to stick around. His teammate Henry Gray was committed to Miami, decommitted. Looked like he was going to go to Clemson, and that chatter has died down. So maybe Ohio State for Henry Gray, maybe, who knows? But it looked earlier like, yeah, Henry Gray is going to choose to go elsewhere. Henry Gray, someone I know personally from my time at Miramar High School. And then Jalen Harrell was going to go to Miami, and that was kind of like the trade. But now that's not necessarily so clear. So, when you have a cornerback of, good caliber, who's also that size, like 6'2", like a legitimate 6'2", 180 pounds with long arms and loose hips, those don't grow on trees. Those are your Taiwan Mullins. Those are your Greedy Williams. Those are your Pat Surtains. Those are your Tyson Campbells. Like those guys are few and far between where we know those names. So it stands to reason that Jalen Harrell's recruitment is going to pick up moving forward. Hopefully Miami is able to keep him in the fold. And again, this is what Miami always battles, keeping or getting enough of the guys that Miami wants, that everybody wants, especially locally in Broward and Dade and Palm Beach counties, to be Hurricanes. So, I think that we decided, or it has seemed to me from the recruiting moves, that Miami has moved on from Henry Gray, who's a Power 5 level player. Like that guy is going to play, in a big time conference with, depending on how he develops, a good chance to play on Sundays. But Miami decided, he's going to do what he's going to do, and the vibe they got, we're going to let him go and then focus on Jalen Harrell. So, I know that, a lot of people in the past were talking about Mike Rumph's inability to recruit. And then, even in like the 2018 class, this is after that 2017 season that was undefeated until it wasn't, where Pat Surtain and Tyson Campbell, two players that Mike Rumph personally coached when he was head coach at American Heritage, decided to go elsewhere. And he said, I pushed as hard as I could, which I read to be his code for he wanted to not even break rules, but he wanted to do some recruiting things that Mark Richt shot down. So this year, without Mark Richt, Pastor Richt, like people call him, holding him back, if Mike Rumph is a dog, you know what I'm saying? And I've heard from multiple people. I've heard from people in the athletic department at the University of Miami. I've heard from other people around. Mike Rumph is a dog as a recruiter. Okay. You got Christian Williams away from Alabama last year out of Louisiana to come on down. I need to see that with Jalen Harrell. So there's obviously a long way to go, but that's going to be a battle because, like I said, 6'2", 180-pound corners with long arms and loose hips don't grow on trees. So we got to find a way to get him to come to Miami.
We appreciate the likes. And so a number of you are on the live chat encouraging others to like the live stream and the video. So we appreciate that. And also the comments, of course, that come in. And we will also let you know that this live stream is on a super chat. So you can make your contribution to both Cam and I and the entire channel by making your contribution right there with the super chat. That's available as well. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, as we break down Miami football with Cam Underwood, State of the U here on Wednesday night. So let's transition from recruiting to on-the-field workouts with about 10 in the books right now. I read an article just a few minutes before we came on, Cam, that they opened up the windows, which here in the north would mean that we're cooling things down, but down there in the south, in South Florida, that means let's get ready for the Florida game because it could be mighty hot and humid on August 24th. So let's get the big guys ready for that.
Yeah. So the first scrimmage was on Saturday. That was at Christopher Columbus High School in Miami. And, that's outside. All the practices were inside in the nicely climate-controlled Carroll Sulphur indoor football practice facility and things like that. And, you get outside and, that was always a thing that Miami had with conditioning over other teams. If you think back to, the U documentaries or the U, or both of them, the U and the U Part 2, how Miami was in better condition because, you're practicing outside on the Green Tree practice fields. And, I don't know if you haven't been down here, but, in June, July, and August and September, it's hot. 93 degrees with 100% humidity that will literally smack you at the front door. And this team hadn't really had that. because they're inside. The practices are only Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays spread out over 5 weeks for the spring. So you're not playing every day. You're not hitting every day. You're indoors in this nicely climate controlled place, and you go outside for that scrimmage, and it's like, whew, I'm in shape, but like I'm not in shape. And they realized that. So Manny Diaz, the head coach, he said, yeah, we have these garage doors and or sliders, whatever they have in the football practice facility. And they said, cool, for Tuesday's practice, open all that up, turn off the AC. Let's make it the old school, gym from Rocky that ain't got no AC, ain't got no fans. You're gonna move around, you're gonna sweat, you're gonna feel that. And yeah, that's exactly what they did. So, I mean, obviously some of those heat concern things are going to be struggles. I mean, obviously, being healthy, taking your breaks at the right time, drinking water, hydrating, all those things are necessary and required. And Miami's obviously going to do that. But yeah, not making it just like comfortable. Like, okay, like I'm sitting here blogging an article from my kitchen table. Like, cool. I just turn the AC on and everything, and I'm hanging out, having a glass of water or a sweet tea lemonade mix or whatever. Nah, football practice is not that. And so he wanted to make sure that you start to instill that in them now, that mentality. And obviously the defense had that mentality last year, but this is a full program thing. And, I went on another podcast yesterday with my buddies, and they were asking me, is there a difference between Mark Richt and Manny Diaz? Yes, he believes in this hashtag TNM New Miami. We're not going to be the same. We're going to have to approach things differently. So instilling that with everybody, that killer instinct, and then also just for physicality, like you got to be ready for that heat and everything. So yeah, to do that. And, obviously there was some work that was done on the field that day and whatnot, but yeah, you started to feel just not as comfortable. And Manny Diaz has talked about that, pushing people outside the realm of their comfort. And that is from whence you find greatness, which is something that I believe also.
All right, little station break for all of you. You got to listen to me for just a second. Say, this is Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. This is, of course, the Miami channel. You can join me to cover the entirety of the nation on the other channel, my main page here on YouTube, Mark Rogers TV, and most of you do, so I appreciate it. Hit the like button, smash it. Make sure you do it over and over and over for all the videos and live streams that you watch. It just helps. Comment to the videos and the live streams as well. Would love to get your questions and comments. I am scanning the live chat. And of course, back on my main channel, if you grab the description section, the link there from Amazon, you can help us out by building the channel by just shopping at Amazon using that link. You can go to Patreon as well and support us at Mark Rogers TV. All right. Between Nesta Silvera and Mark Pope, are those two players in particular, Cam, ready to make the leap?
Yes, I believe so. More Silvera than Pope. Silvera, who's a 4-star defensive tackle recruit from American Heritage last year, chose Miami over Florida in the end. Played sparingly as a freshman, but coming into his sophomore year, he's going to have to step into a bigger role. Everybody has, all the coaches and even other people behind the scenes have spoken about how Nesta Silvera has taken a step. Manny Diaz said it last week. New defensive coordinator Blake Baker said it before. Todd Stroud, the new defensive line coach, has talked about it. Everybody's talking about how Nesta Silvera is taking a step forward. Now, it's not 100% there yet. Obviously, it's not to the point where like he's going to be Gerald Willis. I don't think that that's going to happen because Gerald Willis should have been the first team All-American. You know what I mean? But I do believe that Nesta Silvera is in a position to really step forward. Blake Baker, the defensive coordinator, was talking about how Silvera needs to chill a little bit in practice, at least, so that, you can't be starting fights with your teammates. You can't just do things, like if we're going half speed because the offensive line is showing you something and we're working on our hand placement, you can't go full speed over somebody. You know what I mean? Like that, we're telling you to do this for a reason, so you get it before we unleash it, so anything like that. So Blake Baker, that's what he's talking about. Like, okay, yeah, just really enjoy that process, and we're going to let you loose, because especially like I've talked about before, this defense is predicated on wreaking havoc in the front seven, getting up the field, choosing a gap and going. That's what this defense is about. And Nesta Silvera can do that. And I do believe that he's in a position to take a big leap forward. Mark Pope has all the physical tools to do the same. He's 6'1", he's quick, he's fast. He makes plays. I've said this before, 2000s, he was a freshman in 18. He was a senior in high school in 17. Southridge won the high school state championship in 2016. They ran a play for D. Wiggins because they were high school teammates, another wide receiver at Miami. They ran a play for D. Wiggins up the left sideline, Southridge did, and it was incomplete. It was 4th in the ball game from their own like 28-yard line. Southridge calls a timeout. They go over. The coaches are talking about it. And Mark Pope pulled literally like a Michael Jordan, if you remember the shot against the Cavs back in whenever that was, 84,
89.
89, excuse me. Yeah, 89. But if you remember that, basically the coach at the time, Doug Collins, was drawing up a play for somebody whose name I can't even remember. And Michael Jordan just said, give me the effing ball. And that's why you see him dancing around. He got open. He made the shot. Same thing is going on the Southridge sideline. And they're talking about whatever. And they said, and Mark Pope spoke up and he said, Coach, switch me and D, run the same play again. It's going to be a touchdown. Lo and behold, they did just that. Strike up the band, change the scoreboard. Southridge wins the state championship. So at the end, I saw him personally, Mark Pope, make plays at Deerfield Beach in the state semifinals the week before that, when Southridge needed plays because Deerfield Beach's defense was awesome. They needed a play. So I think that Southridge was down 6-0 after 2 field goals, after like all these goal line stops by Southridge because their defense was amazing too. So, okay, cool. Deerfield kicking off. Oh, yeah, we got a little lead. 99 yards later, Mark Pope has a kick return touchdown. So I've seen him make plays. I know he has this ability. The thing is, it's inconsistent. His hands are inconsistent. His knowledge of the playbook is not as complete as you would like it to be. There's just some things like, KJ Osborne is the only wide receiver who's taking after practice at the jugs machine working on his hands. All these other guys, including Jeff Thomas, are dropping passes on a routine basis. Like Mark Pope did get loose for a 52-yard touchdown as reported by Miami Athletics during the scrimmage. He had a post route and he was gone. But that's the exception, not the rule for him. But he has all the physical tools and he has the playmaking pedigree to take that step forward. I don't know if he's in I'm not as sure about him taking the step forward as I am with Nesta, because Nesta's going to take that step. John Ford, who played directly behind and worked with Gerald Willis last year, he's going to take a step forward. Mark Pope has the ability to take the step forward. I need to see him harness that ability and turn potential into performance.
I'm not going to say hi or run down the list of people on the live chat here. You guys know who you are in regards to supporting the channel on a regular basis and being here every Wednesday night, so I appreciate it. Cam does as well. It appears, though, Cam, as though you and JT Sounds, you guys could have a private conversation here because JT is just spitting them out quicker than I can get to them. But he's very concerned about Herbert and Reed being disappointments along the offensive line.
I mean, look, you can name a bunch of people along the offensive line. That is, as a singular player, the quarterback battle is the thing that people are looking at. But as a unit, yeah, it has to be offensive line. And guys are just shuffling around. And I get it because, Butch Berry is new and he doesn't know any of these guys. And even the guys who are returning starters, DeLon Scaife and Navon Donaldson, they've been in new positions all spring. Donaldson went from right guard to left guard, and yesterday's practice he was playing center even because Corey Gaynor got dinged up in the scrimmage. DeLon Scaife, he was at right tackle last year. He moved to left tackle. He's now at right guard in practice. So even the returning starters aren't returning starters because they're in new positions. And yeah, all these. I mean, there are guys with talent or pedigree from recruiting on this roster. So you got guys like Kylion Herbert. You got guys like Cleveland Reed. You have guys like John Campbell, who was actually running with the first team at right tackle, and then he tweaked a knee earlier in the spring. There's plenty of guys who need to step up. So, yeah, I know, obviously, if you're looking at Herbert, who was a medium-high 4-star from American Heritage, and you look at Cleveland Reed, who's just gigantic and was a 2-time or 3-time state powerlifting champion in the state of Florida, who, you figured were going to come in early and play. Herbert's going to be a redshirt sophomore. Reed's going to be a redshirt freshman now. So these are second and third year players respectively who you expect to step up. Look, all the way along the offensive line, everybody needs to step up. And if you remember, Tommy Kennedy, he came over as a grad transfer, having started 37 games at Butler, the last 30 of which were at left tackle. So you figure he might even at least get a cup of coffee or a look at being left tackle. He's been second team center the entire spring. So I'm not necessarily it's not the exact same for Kennedy not, living up to what was maybe billed or thought to be potentially possible. But yeah, it's not just Herbert and Reed. It's pretty much everybody. Because if anybody was good enough to be in one spot and then you anchor him and then you build from there, that person would be there. If you thought Navon Donaldson is, he's the next coming of, Dermontti Dawson or whoever, just an all-pro Larry Allen at guard. He's that. Nobody, he's going to ragdoll people. So we're going to put him at left guard and then we're going to go from there. If he was that dude, we would have done that. But by everybody moving, that means everybody needs to step up. Even a former freshman All-American, even a nice, he should have been at least, if you did freshman All-ACC, DeLon Scaife would have definitely been a freshman All-ACC guy, but everybody's moving around. So I know that you're thinking about those guys exclusively as guys who are not living up to their ranking or to their potential. Until I see it on the field, nobody on the offensive line is living up to their potential, and everybody needs to do better. Everybody.
AV Mo, speaking for a lot of people, just says, Cam! All right. I love this handle. There's a lot of work in here. I don't know what the interpretation is. You got the U in parentheses. No Airbrush Royale football YouTube. Anyway, we appreciate the comment. A lot of good, he's basically saying he's just soaking it up. Educate us, Cam, bro. Just do it. Other folks, in particular, the Wholesome One and Mike Williams, both asking about Greg Russo and Trevon Hill, whether those guys are going to step up this year.
Absolutely. Trayvon Hill got dismissed from Virginia Tech after like 3 or 4 games last year. He had the highest rate of QB pressure, tackles for loss, and sacks, the highest percentage rate of any defensive end in the ACC at the time that he was dismissed. Now, I know that he got off against Florida State and their sieve-like offensive line in the first game, but when you have a defense predicated on havoc and you bring in the guy who, through his time on the field last year, was wreaking havoc better than any player in the ACC, and this is with guys who are going to get drafted very highly: Cleveland Farrell, Christian Wilkins, Joe Jackson, Gerald Willis, Brian Burns at Florida State, other guys. There's a decent defensive end from NC State this past year. But above any and all of those guys, Trayvon Hill was wreaking more havoc. And now you come into a defense that is predicated on that. Yeah, that's going to be a big addition. Gregory Rousseau is massive physically. There's a picture from the scrimmage, actually, where Will Mallory's in a 3-point stance. And Will Mallory is 6'5", about 230, 235. And he looks like a 4th grade boy sitting or lined up across from Gregory Rousseau, because Gregory Rousseau looks like Too Tall Jones, or something like that. He just looks like, he's just huge. He's 6'7". He came in at 6'6". He's probably pushing 6'7", 6'8", has enormous wingspan. He's up in the 250s or 60s for weight. He could probably even add a little bit more. And again, in the first scrimmage, 4 sacks, which was par for the course for him last year in the scrimmages, where Greg Rousseau was so disruptive in the first scrimmage after being an early enrollee at 225 pounds, after having played outside linebacker, wide receiver, and safety in high school. He was so disruptive at defensive end in the first scrimmage last year that Miami had to whole scale redo their offensive line. And that seems to be continuing. So you have that kind of elite talent. Then you're adding Trayvon Hill to Jonathan Garvin, who with another strong season could realistically be a first-round draft pick. Then you have Scott Patchen as a 5th-year senior finally being healthy and able to live up to his potential, because he's battled injuries and things. Miami was so thin at tight end 2 years ago that they switched Scott Patchen to tight end for a couple of games. And he did it because he was a team player, but he was a medium-high 4-star recruit from IMG Academy at defensive end. So you have all those guys. And then I didn't even mention Jafari Harvey, who's an early enrollee, who, he looks like the next coming of Jonathan Garvin, an underrated 3-star guy from, the Palm Beach County area. Shout out to Kev, 561, what up? So he's coming down. He's an early enrollee, and he's turning heads. If you add in Rousseau and Hill to, Garvin and Patchen, and now adding in Harvey as a freshman, that's a pretty formidable defensive end rotation. So, yeah, I do believe both of those guys are going to be big additions for the Canes, and they're definitely going to both make plays.
All right, my man Anthony Manzano, who's a faithful viewer, and just in the last few weeks, I've noticed just a ton of comments from him and a lot of appreciation coming from him. You are definitely going to get your, I can't guarantee, but most likely you're going to get your comment read when you state the comment, you state it again, and then the third time you say, Mark, will you please read my comment? So Anthony is very polite here. But okay. Anthony, let's understand, before I serve this up for Cam, I'm going to give you the generic answer. If you have 3 players at one position get injured, any position, and 2 of them are of all conference variety, that's not a good thing. It's going to be difficult to replace them. So before I go to the specifics, I'm just bear in mind that I think my answer might suffice, but I'll give it to Cam here. So he's concerned about the linebacking unit if all 3 linebackers get injured.
Wait. If all 3 linebackers get injured?
So yes, Anthony's asking, Cam, I'm worried about linebacker core. What happens if Mike, Shaq, Zach, if they get injured during the season, who would replace them?
Yeah, that's rough.
I guess all 3 of them.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, if you take away the entire starting 4-year linebacking core, and I'm not trying to laugh at you, Anthony. Honestly,
what happens if all 3 quarterbacks get hurt?
Right. Yeah. I mean, exactly. It's that. Well, I mean, you turn into Maryland from a few years ago when you put a linebacker quarterback, yes, because that literally did happen.
So did Iowa State, and they were actually pretty good. They won like 9 games with the linebacker playing quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, well, he decided to like make that change, like in the offseason, and like because he had played quarterback before, and like but no, that was like in week 8. Oh, their quarterbacks had gone down in Maryland. And they're like, anybody play quarterback in high school? And this linebacker was like, me, coach. He's like, cool, you're playing quarterback. We're going to run wing T. So I mean, it would be something like that. I mean, I don't, as I'm knocking on my wood table, want to wish injury upon anybody. If I will play the hypothetical game though. If all 3 linebackers went down, then Miami would probably go to a 4-2-5 base throughout. So you're probably going to bring in Romeo Finley as your striker. He's just going to have to play all the time. And then I would probably say, just pick your most athletic guys and then just rotate them. So I would say Avery Huff, who's going to be a true freshman, throw him into the fire at one of the linebackers, probably that strong side Mike Pinckney spot. And then, you hope that Bradley Jennings Jr. Is able to be decent at middle backer for a while. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, unless you want to try to go outside the box and say, just so that we get athletes out there, if you can kind of get the technique down, maybe move a Jafari Harvey back from DN to the middle backer or something like that. Or yeah, I mean, you're just going to be playing nickel and dime a lot. So, maybe you bring in Avery Huff as one linebacker, Romeo Finley as a striker / outside backer, and then you have all of your safeties. So Bubba Bolden, Amari Carter, and Gervin Hall all on the field at the same time, in addition to whichever other defensive back. So, I mean, it would have to be something like that where you kind of piece it together because, yeah, Miami does not have that high quality depth behind those 3 seniors. But I do think it's kind of fantastical to even really think that, all 3 of them like going down in such a fashion.
Get 82 on the line watching Miami football live chat here with Cam Underwood from State of the U. And of course, for many of you who have just jumped on the line, just wait for the video to process and post, and it'll be available for you start to finish. Mike Williams, thank you so much for contributing $10 to the channel. Want to let you know. So I understand for many of you, if you can't contribute, I will never beg, ask, maybe a slight ask here, beg, plead, anything like that. It's available. It's there. It's a property of YouTube that you can take part, because here's the situation. Cam does an amazing job at State of the U. So please check out the platform there. He's not getting rich doing that. And even if he was, he's earning it. So I have no issue with anyone making money if they're earning it. He comes on here, does an exceptional job. We've worked out an agreement where whatever pennies we can split, we will. And besides that, I would love to do this full time. I don't know if that's an unrealistic goal, but sometimes the vision and the dream has to be unrealistic. So I would love to do this on a full time basis, and therefore I'm carving out different revenue streams to do that. But if you really look at the entirety of the content and the delivery and the analysis that I bring on a regular basis, Cam, concerning Miami football, brings it all the time for us. It's really an enormous bargain. So just to take that into consideration. So again, Mike, we appreciate the contribution right there. Coconut Kane is upset with all these 3 stars that are coming in the door. That is not Miami, he says. That ain't Miami, to quote him right there. And before Cam takes it away with the more expert view at the recruiting look, go to your top teams in any conference, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson on down the line. You would be surprised at how much of that roster is built out of 3-star talent. And go to your favorite NFL roster, and if you can do the research back to the recruiting rankings, you might be surprised. Yes, it slopes way up at the 4- and 5-star level in terms of NFL roster correlation, but plenty of 3-stars out there that are impact players in college football. So not everybody that walks in the door can be a 4 or 5-star.
That is true and correct. Even Alabama has 3 stars. You know, that Jacobs running back kid was a very moderately rated player coming out of high school. And he obviously outperformed that. Mike Pinckney was a 3-star. He obviously outperformed that. So yeah, 3 stars, you know, like the majority of people are 3 stars. Honestly, it's the cream of the crop that are 4 and 5 stars. In this recruiting class currently for 2020, there are 2 3-star players out of Miami's 11 commitments. That is Darren Branch from Amite, Louisiana, and Antonio Smith from Ocala Vanguard High School. Ocala Vanguard is where N'Kosi Perry had his record-setting high school career. Antonio Smith plays interior offensive line, but he looks the part, he has the ability, and Butch Berry gave him an offer personally from our offensive line coach. So it's not even like we're chasing other people's offers or anything. We evaluated him. We think he's going to be good enough. Boom. Darren Branch, same thing. Big kid, long arms, maybe not fast enough to really be a safety, but he can grow into a striker. That's it. Every other player, all the other 9 are 4-star level players. You know, so that's it. You know, some of the early 2021 players are rated 4 or 5 stars, you know, based upon just rankings that have come out. Now, where I will agree with you is this past recruiting class had way more 3 stars than I necessarily would like. I mean, this is the nature of the beast as to why Miami, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm moving my camera all around as I was trying to read that on my screen. But the reason that Miami went on a spree on the transfer portal such as they did is because they had to fill out the roster, because this recruiting class simply in its breadth of talent was not Miami caliber. Now, are there some guys that I think can outperform their rankings? Yes. Jared Harrison Hunt, defensive tackle from Christ the King Regional in New York. I think he's going to outperform his ranking. Adam El Gamal, offensive lineman, also from Christ the King Regional. That would be high school teammates. I think that he in time can outperform his ranking. You know, Peyton Matoka, the quarterback from Houston. He was Houston private school defensive or offensive player of the year, excuse me. I think he can outperform his ranking. Cameron Williams, great name, by the way, from Shaman Hamadana Prep down here in Hollywood. I think that he, as a 6'5", 215 D-end rusher, he can outperform his ranking. But yes, I do believe and I agree that in the last recruiting class, there were far too many 3-star talents. And on top of that, Miami missed on so many top-end players. And it stands to reason, obviously. The season went very poorly. The recruiting methodology was not necessarily the greatest. The energy from the staff obviously wasn't there. Mark Richt was just kind of like, you know, you want to come here, cool. You know, cool. You know, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to talk to you guys when you come on visits. But it didn't have that same energy or intensity or urgency. And yeah, I agree. So in the previous years, I will cautiously agree that, yeah, the talent needs to be better. And especially, again, and I've talked about this before, even on here, so I'm agreeing with you now, that when Miami missed on the premium level players, then you just get anybody's to replace them. If you look at, what's his name? Nigel Bethel from Miami Northwestern, played wide receiver, you know, played a little corner. He's going to be a cornerback for Miami. He's fine. He's a 5th or 6th cornerback on a good championship caliber roster. He's going to have to play rotation snaps now because Miami missed on everybody else. Tyreek Stevenson, nope. Pat Surtain, nope. Tyson Campbell, nope. And nope. So now, instead of replacing them with a peer level guy, because if you miss on Pat Surtain, but you get Tyson Campbell, or if you miss on somebody and you get Tyreek Stevenson, or you miss on Stevenson, you get another 4-star, guy of that size and build and caliber, it's fine. But the problem is, and this is being kind of proven by what your statement is, you're missing on these top guys, and now we're not getting that same caliber in being another player. You're now having to drop down levels. And that's where I think things are going. And so, yeah, hopefully in the 2020 class, Miami can start to turn that around. And what? Oh, okay, sorry. Miami can start to turn that around and get the talent going in the right and proper way. So, yeah, that is a thing that I think the staff is aware of. I think that Manny Diaz is painfully aware of that. And Miami has been very good because there's been some top-end players on the roster, but you have to get top-end recruits to have a better chance at that. So I agree. I agree with you that there are some areas on the team and in the last few recruiting classes where the quality of talent could have been better, and Miami really does need to address that this year, next year, and every year moving forward.
Got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U, so you check him out and the rest of the staff there doing work on Miami football, baseball, basketball, the rest of the team sports there at State of the U. And, of course, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. My aim is to deliver the best discussion, debate, and analysis from myself and the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the country, all these schools and many more that you see back here. And, of course, Miami featured specifically on Wednesday night. Our guy Anthony Cam is comparing Christian Williams to Mike Jackson.
I think that could be a very good comparison. Christian Williams being a 4-star recruit from Louisiana who is coming to Miami. He chose Miami over Alabama, to whom he was committed for a while, and then the Crimson Tide basically kind of were full up, and they got some commitments from some other guys and things like that. And, Christian Williams just wasn't necessarily feeling the love, but he was feeling the love from Miami because, we need guys like that. 6'1", 182, long arms, nice dreads. I like to talk about hair sometimes because, don't have it anymore. He's a big player. There are concerns that he might have to bump inside to safety over time in a similar way that Sheldrick Redwine played corner to start with before bumping to safety. So there are some people who have those concerns. But if he's able to stick at cornerback, I think that he's going to be a very good player. Obviously, being the same kind of size and build around Mike Rumpf, who was like 6'2", 205 when he played corner here at Miami. So in that same big-bodied corner mold. And he has that caliber and pedigree like we're talking about. He was a kid who was committed to Alabama for the better part of a year, and on National Signing Day decided to come to Miami for a variety of reasons. I think that if everything goes right, I think that Christian Williams can have a better career than even Mike Jackson did. Because, it took Mike Jackson to his really 4th year. He was a redshirt junior in 2018. He played in 2017. He played pretty well. But his 3rd, 4th year, that's really kind of when he made some steps. I think that Christian Williams can have an impact earlier. It is going to take some work to get there. And he's going to have to overcome, like I said, some of the thought from some people that he's not athletic enough to stick at corner.
Talking Miami football on a Wednesday night with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Thanks for joining us in the live chat here. We've got 85 on the line. So if everybody that's watching us and has watched us over the last 45 minutes would think about those people that family, friends, social media acquaintances that love Miami football or college football in general and just want to keep track of one of the big major programs, then let them know that we're here covering Miami football. Had one here that I'm not going to ask this direct question because it, again, is a bit of a, off into space. Let's kind of conjecture to nth degrees. But Jaron Williams, based on the feedback I'm getting from the Miami fan base, and you hear from a zillion times more than I do, seems to be a bit of a fan favorite to win this job. I don't know if that's coming out of him looking very crisp, having elite arm talent, and him showing that off in camp and people hearing about that, or what it is.
Yeah, Jaron Williams, he's good, first of all. He was an All-American in high school. Like he, played very well with Central Gwinnett in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And he looks the part of a quarterback. He's 6'2.5", like 210, and everything. And the ball looks a little different from him. He has a quicker release, a strong enough arm. It's not as strong as N'Kosi Perry's. I don't care what you say. Trust me on this. N'Kosi Perry has the strongest arm of any quarterback in Miami's current quarterback room. I'm not going to debate that. But Jarren Williams just carries himself in that way. He has that aura about him. People are kind of gravitating to him. And also, in addition, he didn't really get a chance last year under Mark Richt to play. And Miami's quarterback play was the worst in college football last year. So why would you oh my goodness. Pause. I'm sorry about this. Nope. I'll just text. I'll call you right back. Sorry about that. I know what that's about, but they'll have to wait. Anyways, Jarren Williams just looks the part. And like I was saying, I'm sorry, he didn't get a chance to play quarterback last year, and Miami's quarterback play was the worst in college football last year. So why would you go to somebody like N'Kosi Perry, who was part of the worst quarterback rotation in college football, or go to Tate Martell, who couldn't even get a starting job as a Tate Martell was a 5-star recruit all the way up until the last update his recruiting year. So I've been saying he was a 5-star, and then people are like, he's a 4-star, and he's a 4-star. He was a 5-star the whole entire time. He was a highly rated guy. He was like the number 1 dual threat in his year, whatever. But he wasn't even able to really see the field at Ohio State. So why are you going to go outside and bring him in, and when you have Jarren here? So yeah, people are really just gravitating to Jarren, and he plays the game well, obviously. But you could just see last spring when Jarren was an early enrollee that the game was a little too fast for him. Like a linebacker would flash in a window, he would kind of half cock his arm like I'm going to throw it, and then like it was just a little fast. But he has all the talent in the world, and he seems to have that desire to be great, and he just kind of carries himself in a different way than many quarterbacks have at Miami recently. And like I said, he's the great unknown, which people are always going to gravitate towards. That's for one. And again, he was not part of the debacle at quarterback this last year. So people are more willing to give him or look to him to make plays and be the quarterback as opposed to N'Kosi Perry or, Tate Martell. But I think that's what it is. But, I don't think that if any of the 3 quarterbacks win the job, I think that it will be because of what they did on the field. And I don't think that they'll be fish out of water. I don't think that they're going to be, they're not going to be Malik Rozier, who it took him until his 4th year and probably should have stuck with baseball, isn't a really good a football player, isn't really Miami caliber. And we saw that. None of these 3 guys are that. They're all better than that. They all have variegated skill sets, but they are to a Miami caliber level. So yeah, I mean, everybody has their favorites, but Jarren Williams is really getting this groundswell. And I think for those reasons, like I've already said.
Yeah, when we used to talk about Malik Rozier and his capabilities or lack thereof and try to rate him against the nation, I would think that a player of that caliber should be playing at a mid-tier MAC school or Sunbelt school, and that's where they should be playing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and, people are kind of talking the same thing about Peyton Matoka, the signee this year, who's a 3-star out of Houston, Texas. Truth be told, I do not expect Peyton Matoka ever to take a meaningful snap here at Miami. I think that he is a practice body. I think he's a program player. I think he's going to be a great student. I think he's going to be a good citizen. I think he's going to be a great addition to our program, kind of in the way like Evan Sheriffs was from Jefferson, Georgia a couple of years ago. Kind of like Cade Weldon was, but Cade Weldon, he had his issues and he decided to transfer elsewhere. But I mean, he's going to be that kind of a player where he's going to be the depth in the room. He's going to be a good scout team guy. He's going to, execute the things so that the defense can get prepared. And Miami will recruit over him. And that's okay, because everybody cannot be a superstar. Look, Mark Richt, when he was in high school, he was a superstar at Boca Raton High. He came down to Miami, walking tall and talking big. But, you're behind Jim Kelly and Vinny Testaverde and these guys. You're like, I don't care about them. Like, then I'm going to beat them out. You didn't. But you're a great guy. You got your degree. You were a good citizen and things like that. So there's going to be those guys. But Miami's not going to rely on one of those program type guys to be the quarterback anymore. That was what happened these last 2 years with Malik Rozier playing as much as he did. That's not going to happen because all three guys who are really contending for this job have Miami caliber skills, even though, again, each one has their own different strengths and weaknesses. But we should have a Miami caliber player at quarterback finally.
I'll let everyone know that I have a 9:30 appointment, but that person's not responding, so we'll keep Cam on as long as he would like to be on and as long as the conversation is productive. Our guy, Fred Langston. Fred, you are a mainstay on here, and I got to get a question in on you, and I hope that once I serve it up for Cam, it's a reasonable question. It seems like the most reasonable one you've thrown, and I say that with all due respect. You're just basically making comments, and I appreciate it, Fred. Again, you're a great supporter of the channel here. Fred believes that I think this is a recruiting question, that there is being too much attention given to the DN position in favor of D tackles, and there should be more girth inside and more attention given to the D tackle position.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. Man. Yeah, you know, the real determining factor, for a recruiting class are the big dudes. And I mean big physically. Offensive line, defensive line, offensive tackle, defensive tackle. Those are the real determining factors, which is why even if you look back to the 2018 recruiting class, which was very good, and it was top 3 for a long time, that's why that class slid down and finished at like number 8 because, you know, Alex Leatherwood, a 5-star tackle, decides he's going to go to Alabama, understandably. But Miami didn't get anybody of that caliber. So, yeah, I mean, there is going to be a need for defensive tackles. Now, Miami did bring in 3 this past signing period or signing cycle class. So, you know, we're still going to look at guys, but, you know, hopefully, Jalen Carter from Apopka, Florida, 6'4", 310, who's a 4-star guy. Maybe, you know, hopefully he comes down. There's a kid from Sebastian River named Timothy Smith who I would greatly love to have here. I believe he's going to go to Clemson, unfortunately, because, you know, he's 6'4", 340. When I saw him 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, he was like 6'4", 295 or 300 pounds, but he's like put on, but it's not sloppy weight, but he's a big dude. So, yeah, I mean, those are just 2 names that I know Miami is offered and things. But, yeah, there will definitely need to be some attention paid there. I know some people on Twitter recently, some of my followers, they were pushing for Pinder, defensive tackle from Miami Northwestern, I want to say. I forget his first name, to get an offer. And I wrote about this in the recruiting rules where Miami needs to cultivate those relationships with guys, you know, Power 5 caliber guys on offensive and defensive line. They need to do that, especially the local guys. They need to cultivate those relationships now. If you look back to last year's recruiting class, Miami needed offensive tackles in the worst way. There's an offensive tackle from Fort Lauderdale High School, Caleb Boateng, and he wanted a Miami offer. He talked about, you know, all these things, but with his high school or with the 7-on-7 team, he took a tour of schools and he went to Clemson last summer. And they evaluated him. They're like, you know what? We're looking at some other guys, but we're going to keep talking to you and pretend that we offer you really late. Would you, you know, maybe consider that? I mean, because like we're telling you up front that you're a backup plan. But if our backup plan goes into motion, would you be here for that? And he told them yes. So Caleb Boateng, who's looking for this Miami offer, who could have shut all this down, he gets an offer from Clemson the night before signing day. Boom, done, goes to Clemson. And this kid is 6'7", 275. Why was he not on Miami's radar? Why did you not have a relationship with him? You know, there's other Power 5 caliber guys along offensive and defensive line who could play at Miami. Now, they might not be able to play day 1, but they can play year 3, year 4, year 5. You know, and still be rotation guys. I mean, look at Pat Bethel. Pat Bethel played D-end. He's now inside at tackle, and he's doing fairly decently. I mean, he's nobody's version of a superstar. You know what I mean? Mike Smith, the linebacker last year, look, he was a 5th-year senior. He was nobody's all-star. He was not Shaq Quarterman. He was not John Garvin. He was not any of that. But you know what he did? His god-darn job. And he wasn't perfect, and he shouldn't have played, 500 snaps, and he didn't. But you need guys like that. And a lot of those guys you're going to get locally. You're going to get from here. You're going to get kids who want to be here. So, yeah, I agree with you that there does need to be more attention paid on both lines, not just defensive tackle. So I'm extrapolating it out. Now, it's easier a little bit to recruit edge rushers because you've seen the production, you've seen the performance, and these guys just want to get here and get after the ball. So, whether it's a Jamari Stewart who plays he plays DN / outside backer in high school, but him, Jafari Harvey last cycle, there's enough guys where you can get those guys. It's really a fight with everybody in America to get big dudes and good big dudes, dudes who can come in and play year 1, year 2. Look, we thought we had a guy who could come and play in year 1 and John Ford, and it's coming into year 3, and we're still waiting on him to make plays. And I say we because I saw John Ford play in high school 4 or 5 times, and I figured he could at least be a rotation guy his freshman year and then step into a pretty decent role his sophomore year. He did neither of those things. So we're waiting on that still. So it's in theory, I agree with you. Yes, we need to pay more attention to offensive and defensive tackles. Yes, we need to get those guys. We need to develop those guys. We need to have guys come in and make plays of a high caliber. But it is easier said than done, and we're seeing that.
Mark Rogers TV and everyone together, the voice of college football, talking up the game we love for the hardcore fan like you, the smart fan like you. And if you're not a smart fan, stay with us, lock it in, and we'll educate you. Cam has the assignment on Wednesday nights with Miami football. Cam, as you were going through the dissertation of trying to find those caliber players on the defensive side and especially inside, it led me to a statement that we're going to hear in a few weeks at the NFL draft. It's difficult to find corners, edge rushers, and then especially tackles, especially left tackles. At one point, that was much more important, but still tackles on either side because of the skill set being so difficult. So as we take it out to the offensive line, I understand that the offensive line has to get much better, and it's been the one positional unit that may have been the worst over the last 4 to 5 seasons for Miami. We see the same issues at Florida State. Actually, if you scan the country, that is what separated a lot of these just giant teams like Clemson, like Alabama, that the offensive lines have just been that good. I just think it's that difficult to play offensive line and to be that good, because when you're playing in a conference like the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten, fill in the blank, and you're playing the top 3/4 of those teams, even the not great teams have just these monsters up front and just these edge rushers who are just fast. Everybody's got them. That it's just a difficult position because you're almost in a defensive mindset, but you've got to take on these extreme athletes of both girth and speed, warp speed, and it's just tough. Even Clemson, when I was watching the spring game, and they were talking about, by Clemson standards again, by Clemson standards, that their offensive line hasn't been great, and they would love to upgrade even that position to be even better. It's just tough to assemble 5 guys, more like 7 or 8 guys, that can play at that level and hold off elite defensive fronts.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's, I read an article, I need to find it, from a few years ago. I think it was Bud Elliott from SB Nation, my recruiting colleague over there. Maybe it was somebody else. Maybe it was. Anyway, either way, it was on SB Nation. I know this for a fact, but they were talking about the hardest positions to recruit and evaluate and develop. And number 1 was offensive line, above quarterback, because quarterback was number 2 on that list. So that just kind of proves the point. Yeah, it is tough. And again, going back to the earlier question, if you're talking about Cleveland Reed was a 4-star, Kyleon Herbert was a 4-star, but they're not living up to it. Barmillo, who was Brad Kaya's high school teammate, never played a meaningful snap here, and he was a 4-star left tackle prospect when he came out here from California. Look, it is the few who come in day one, play for 3 or 4 years, and leave. The Kwanjo brothers at Alabama come to mind. A couple guys at Michigan, like Jake Long did. Even Wisconsin, they have amazing offensive line and amazing offensive linemen. They usually redshirt their guys freshman year. Like, that's just kind of the standard operating procedure for them. So it is very difficult to recruit and develop offensive line anywhere. And especially, just because you got these big, fast, goddamn defensive ends and defensive tackles. And I mean, look, it's everywhere. You're playing, the stunt game. So the TE stunts where you're switching and twisting and things like that. So you're not even necessarily just lining up with somebody and trying to block them. And you got guys who are rush specialists who are, maybe a little bit undersized, but definitely have that quick twitch muscle and short area quickness to be like, yeah, they have the elite get off and they're going to get around the corner. So it is very tough, especially to recruit like big tackles. I mean, the last one, okay, so Miami had Chantrell Henderson, who was like the #1 player in America. You had Eric Flowers, who was a good 4-star guy. Regardless of what you think of him in the pros, he did a pretty darn good job here at Miami. Apart from that, I really struggle to think of like a good offensive tackle that Miami's had to that caliber in a while, because there's very few of those guys and it's very hard to get them to your team and it's hard to develop. So, yeah, I agree with you. It is definitely difficult to develop and get offensive linemen, and hopefully Miami has figured a way out with that with Butch Berry and, can do that moving forward.
Cam, I've refrained from serving up some of the comments made about the 2021 class. Do you have any thoughts there? There have been a number of players that have been mentioned on the live chat, but just that being that far out, do you have any thoughts about who's out there, who's a reasonable get and projection at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go too far down the rabbit hole. I still need to do a little bit of studying, first of all, for myself. But 247 Sports did release their top 247 of 2021 the other day. And Donnell Harris from Booker T. Washington is the #4 player in all of America for that class. Also, James Williams from American Heritage. Donnell Harris plays defensive end. He's 6'6" to 10-ish. James Williams is 6'5", about 200 pounds. He plays safety. He's so big. There are people who think that James Williams is definitely going to grow into a linebacker. And I mean, Bud Elliott thinks that. He said it even before. I tend to think that way just because he's so big and his frame is so big already. James Williams is very staunch that he is a safety, period. If he's able to stay at safety and stay that size, that's a huge, huge player at that position and like a big win. So we'll see. But those are two guys in that class who are elite caliber talents. There's more in the 2021 class, but like I said, I haven't really done my research and I hadn't really prepared to talk about that. So I'm just going to cut it there. But in 2020 and 21, Miami needs to be on a path to recruit a top tier class. And it seems that they're on that road already.
Florida and Miami are playing in more than 4 months from today. We will have plenty of time to match up positions, and especially when we're talking Florida, for example, someone's trying to get us to match up Florida defensive backs against the Miami wide receiver core. Again, that is for August. And even later in August, even with the game at the 24th, for us to size up that matchup. So plenty of time to talk Florida football and get a good read on what the Gators bring to the table. Yes, we know that they've got talent at every position, and we could give a pretty good guess. I even just talked Florida football with David Waters from Gators Breakdown right before I did this on Florida's secondary, but no need to go into matchups at the Florida game. Again, we're just over 4 months away. Cam, it's been a great session with you here. We appreciate you doing a little extra work for us tonight.
Hey, man, it's always been a good time. So just going to get my last little bit in here. I know that you guys like these videos and like watching them. I do hear from you guys sometimes on social media, so I appreciate it. Please be sure that you follow me at Underwood Sports on Twitter. Follow the website Twitter, which I also cultivate at The State of the U. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/thestateoftheu. And also our website is stateoftheu.com. We're all Canes all the time. We have a variety of articles. Gabby Arudia is our beat writer, and he's been at practice every single day providing amazing updates. Dylan Sherry has been doing some great stuff recently. John Cameron's been doing some great stuff recently. Marshall Thomas has really stepped up, and he's doing some really amazing stuff. Matt Washington, he's going to have your NFL draft preview stuff. Justin Tatavio, he's our X's and O's guy. He's an actual high school coach. he provides that top level commentary, and then I'm in there. I give commentary and analysis as well, also covering recruiting, and got some other guys doing that as well. So be sure that you guys check us out over there at stateoftheu.com, because that's what we do. So please come by and fan with us.
And so Justin Tatavio is actually a guy that I saw on your site, saw some really good work from him. So I've had him on 2 or 3 times now, and hopefully I'm going to have him on about once a week just to break down a particular offensive system or offense in particular. And we just broke down the air raid, and that's going to be released here real soon. I just peppered him with all sorts of questions about what is the air raid offense, just to get the word from a guy that truly knows what's going on. All right. I'd like to let everyone know before we say goodbye that, can you imagine if all of you, whatever your social media influence is, that you just let people know that we're here each and every Wednesday night, that Cam's at State of the U with all the fine writers that he just referenced, that I'm here talking college football each and every day. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Family, friends, social media acquaintances, get them here and get them on board. Cam, we appreciate you stopping by. It's always a great time. And again, I cannot thank you enough for the information and the insight.
Yeah, like I said, it's always a good time to be here. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you again for having me, Mark. And we'll check you guys later.
See you guys later. All right, man. Thanks.
No worries. Have a good one.